Welcome to the SDA Housing Podcast, brought to you by NDIS Property Australia. Before starting this episode, we need to provide a general disclaimer. Information contained in this podcast is general in nature only. It does not take into account the objectives, financial situation, or needs of any particular person. You need to consider your financial situation and needs before making any decisions based on the information in this podcast. And you should consider seeking independent and professional advice for your personal circumstances. All right, let's begin.
Hello everybody, my name is Debbie and I'm your host for today here in Brisbane, and you're listening to the SDA Housing Podcast, a show that explains, highlights, guides and brings awareness to all things SDA in this ever-changing NDIS world. And today is very exciting. We have several guest speakers from Hafele and Ropox. Now I'll start with Hafele. We have the National BDM and Assisted Living Manager of the Assisted Living Sector, Clinton. And we also have Oliver, who is the State Manager from South Australia and Product Manager. So I'll speak to you, gentlemen, in a moment, but I also want to firstly introduce our other visitors from Ropox, from Denmark. Welcome to Australia, firstly. So Nils is the MD. And Janz is the Regional Sales Manager, APAC, Australia Pacific. So we'll come back to you brief in a short while. But first, I want to introduce Clinton and Oliver. Welcome today.
Thanks for having us.
And I would love to ask you to tell us a little bit about Hafele and what it is that you do.
Hafele Australia, the Australian branch of Hafele Germany, established in 1923 and celebrating 100 years this year, and in Australia now 40 years. And Hafele are a provider of quality hardware for the building industry. So it could be for the kitchen, it could be architectural hardware for external access or automatic doors. And now doing some work, since 4 years, doing some work in the assisted living arena under the SDA banner.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about the products that you are actually putting out there for the assisted living.
Well, really, it starts at the front door because we look at access control and door hardware at the front door. That door may or may not be activated by an automatic door, which could be activated by access control. Then we move into the bedroom space with wardrobe accessories. And then really the big focus really are the kitchen space and also the bathroom space. And in the kitchen, we're talking about adjustable bench mechanisms. We're talking about drawers and bins. We're talking about motorised overhead units that bring the overhead covered down to a user who may be in a frame or maybe seated in a chair. Then into the bathroom, we're talking sanitary hardware, shower seats, grabber up and so on. So really from the front door to the back door.
Okay, and with your rollout of this hardware into the SDA properties, what sort of penetration do you think you've got in the market there?
Well, see, we are a trusted brand. So we are receiving a lot of inquiries, and of course we're doing a lot of discussion, having a lot of discussions ourselves. It's difficult to gauge because the SDA market is still in its, I wouldn't say in its infancy, but it's still at the bottom of that bell curve. So there's a lot of activity happening, of which we really full-time. There's a number of people in our business full-time across Australia. We're 300 people in Australia and about 50 people active from a selling perspective, and most of those have input daily into the space. So we know already that it's a very excitingly growing business, but I think we're still just at the very beginning of the
Yeah, I think there's so much to come.
It's hard to keep up at times because it is overwhelming at the moment, but also what is overwhelming is the thirst for knowledge, because there is still a lack of knowledge in the space around design and around the design standards for the home, especially when it talks about kitchen and the living space.
Yeah.
And that's why we are being a trusted brand. I think we have a lot of activity for that reason because we have that knowledge.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay, I want to move over now to Nils and Janz. from Ropox. Again, welcome. And tell us a little bit about why you're here in Australia, what your... I'm sure, it would be pretty cold over in Denmark right now. But
that we've seen be growing business over the years, especially past 4 or 5 years, and of course that's very interesting. And for us, going around to see what's really happening. Now there's been a COVID, so it's been 3 years, but it's just unbelievable what's going on at the moment. We started up, 12 years ago in Australia, very limited, but the past 4 years has really been a big change for us. So that's a part of the reason.
Okay, so you've been working with Hafele for that time?
Yeah, I've been working with Hafele.
So about 12 years now?
No, for the past 7 years.
7? Okay, great. So tell us, I guess, a bit about your products and what Hafele has.
Danish company based in just south of Copenhagen. We have been around since 1962, and we've actually been doing these products for since the 70s, something like that. So some of the things that we talked about in Australia now has actually been around. That's something we have sold in Europe, in the US, and other markets for many years. And what we actually do is we divide it into 3 groups of products. So that's we have special tables for people with disability, tables that can go up and down, be height adjusted, can also be adjusted in different ways that you can actually adjust it to a wheelchair sometimes. So it's good for a wheelchair user. We have, as Oliver just mentioned, one of the big things here in Australia, we have the height adjustable kitchens, which is a product that is both where we have the cabinets that can come down to you. If you're sitting in a wheelchair, then I see the benches that the worktop benches that actually go up and down, so it can be adjusted and someone can sit in the right position. To use doing that, and then we have numerous actually also bathroom products. We have some basins that can also be height adjusted. We have toilets that can be height adjusted.
Wow!
And we have, of course, different rail systems that can be used in different ways. We have some special wash basins that I can actually move in different ways also. So that there are many options. We've only introduced some of the products so far. It's only sought them we introduced in Australia. So there's more.
I guess we're still a very young market for this.
It is. So we have, of course, our main markets in Europe, and these products have been going into different locations for 20, 25 years. With some of the technology that we still have in the tables and in some of the things that we have in the kitchen side, it's still some of the same technology that we're using now.
Yeah.
So it's something that works. It's a good quality.
So Australia is really benefiting from coming in to products of yours that have been well and truly tested and tried in the marketplace. Yeah. Fantastic. So how do you see your products being beneficial to the Australian market?
Well, I think you have the demographic and also the demographic challenge, and you have still also a lot of people that are still having that need for this. And you could actually help people by doing this. So you can have this assisted living program where you can help people going into the kitchen, go to the bathroom, being independent, doing on their own. That's so important for everybody. It's for your own dignity, for everything that you do in your daily life. And that's also why our slogan is better ways to better days.
Yeah, I guess it's really important to understand, and this is something that we talk about a lot on our podcast, is there are the SDA building standards, and that's all well and good. And they say that you've got to have at least one bench top in the kitchen that is height adjustable, but there aren't necessarily no other requirements to make a property high physical support or fully accessible. But if you're coming at it from an investor's perspective and you want to future-proof your property, which is something we talk about a lot, future-proofing an investment property so that you're your participants, your tenants are going to want to stay there because it meets all their needs, then you really need to be looking at going way above those standards and including so many more of these assisted. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And then the returns based on the initial investment to bring it, design or build up to best practice. And those outcomes are far, far better. We look at a minimum investment or minimum fit out.
Precisely, yeah. So
since the early parts of SDA, I've seen such a change in the last 4 years of the projects I've been delivering, and I've delivered a lot of projects right across Australia. The key thing here is we want to create independence for people. There's the SDA part, which is one part, but then we are an aging population. The great thing about the SDA document and the requirements to have a height adjustable bench there is it sets a precedent that we had starting to make sure that built environment does not disable us. And unfortunately, a lot of people's disability, it doesn't disable them. It's the actual built environment that disables them. So what I've seen from the early stages of technician adjustable brackets to manual adjustable brackets to now flexi-electric mechanisms and now overheads coming off the walls. One thing about early SDA we're seeing of trying to be tenanted is that we want to be above best practice. And people often forget in the back of the purple book, which is the SDA guideline, is best practice. And in the back there, it talks about height adjustable mechanisms in the bathroom for the basins. So what I've seen in my journey over the last few years is those that will build above best practice or even add new technologies in will actually get their properties tenanted much more quicker. It's a better word, sorry. And then also it's about making that person feel independent in that space, and it keeps the tenant or keeps the participant living in that space. There has been a change where people have moved into one type of SDA that's probably at minimum standards, who are now moving out of that into properties that are above best practice. And I think that's the key thing here, that early investment of the right technologies will actually be beneficial, not just for the participant, but also the investor moving forward.
Absolutely. I think that's imperative that people really understand. You've got to consider these sorts of elements in your property if you want it to be a successful business, because as we also say, you're not just buying a property here, you are buying a business. And to make it successful, there's a lot more that goes into it, including this assisted technology over and above the standards. So back to Ropox. Tell us what makes your products unique.
I think it's a combination of things. Of course, we have been asking both users, and we've been asking also occupational therapists about this for years. So we know exactly what the needs are for the users. So that's what makes them so special. So we know how to solve the needs of the users. And I think that's crucial here, because you have to bring that into housing way, so you know what it can bring to people.
And what works and what doesn't work.
Yeah.
Through the experience that you've had.
The important thing about SDA here in Australia, this is an investment where a private investor and people moving which last 20 years. So I think it's really important that we look at where this type of product is being manufactured. And with the history of Ropox around the world and the case studies that I have through Ropox of where these mechanisms are lasting so many years, I think it puts peace of mind in investors as well that are investing in SDA to choose the right manufactured product to be able to get that longevity, because maintenance ongoing is something that could cause a further expense in the future. So the quality is a very important factor.
And of course, I assume that is why Ropox and Hafele have teamed up, because
efficiency is in the building industry. A big focus is in the kitchen and in the living space. So it was a natural progression for us to look, and this is now 5 years ago since we started this discussion, is to look at the really underdeveloped part of our construction industry, and that's construction directed towards people living with disability. So it's a natural progression for us, and we will always err on the side of quality products, and partnering with Ropox in Denmark's perfect opportunity for us.
Yeah. So Tell us a little bit more about the specific products and how you've seen, Hafele, how you've seen from your side the benefit of them coming into the SDA properties that you've worked on.
Well, Ropox is a big part of what we do, but hopefully sometimes people forget that we both are a manufacturer and we're a distributor of quality products. And when you look at that turnkey solution of everything that we provide into an SDA property, Oliver mentioned before, we have the automation on the front door, and we team up with a brand called Getsy to be able to have a quality product for automation. We then have our own manufactured leaders into these types of projects. We then, Oliver talked about the wardrobe, where we have mechanisms including manual pull downs and also electric versions that can be also upgraded into that space. The kitchen is always a big part of Hafele, but being able to have that quality product and a product that creates independence for someone is really important. And what we found in our journey is we're just hardware suppliers, I often joke, but then we're finding that architects and designers are coming to us because we've got so many touch points in the project to help them specify a project.
And we're providing positive outcomes. And it's all about independence, it's all about flexibility, but also it's about design, it's about storage. So we can really influence the different facets of a house design or a property design. It could be the smarts of bringing an overhead down to someone who can reach in the seated position. It could be an adjustable bench that's used by a participant and also a carer. Same bench at different heights over the course of the day, all adjusted by the user, which, as the standard suggests, is the natural outcome in this kind of space. So it's about design, functionality, clever, but also with the peace of mind that we do provide lifetime warranties. We do have that service in backup, so it's a complete picture. So from the planning perspective, we can influence obviously the delivery process, but also the after delivery, the after service is also important, and we can provide that also around the country.
With that built environment, an linkable and an adaptable home is one that will actually grow with the person. Okay, that could be age, and of course it could be with their disability. But the importance about good design and good fixtures within that is that if you implement them early on, it will save so much money in the future with costly renovations. So it's about having a home that actually adapts with you, and these types of products and mechanisms allows that property to change with the actual participant.
Now, the direct,
Yep. And that's what this is all about. So you were talking about from the design stage you come in. So what sort of developers, what sort of builders are you working with? And where in that stage do you come in? Right at the beginning, they're always bringing your hardware into the plans?
Directly with architects who specialise in this space. You could be with architects who aren't so specialised in this space and need some knowledge, or working closely with them to provide some outcomes. We're talking directly to housing providers. It's across all manner of industry, direct with construction companies who might be design and construct. So it's across the whole gamut really of construction industry. It's not really specific, because we touch on all of those areas through our sales force around the country.
We talk at Hafele about Project 360 service. And if you look at the lifespan of a project, it's where the initial specification comes on board with the architect. So we, in the last couple of years, have developed a continued professional development course called Assisted Living from Hafele. And we actually educate architects on how to best specify around assisted living, and also introduce them to the NDIS and the term, all the acronyms that seem to be around, SDA, NDIS, HPS, etc. So we educate the architect. We then will get specified, and that will then go out to tender to the builder on behalf of the developer or the SDA provider where we have relationships. So we'll then go out, and because we both supply directly to the builder or through other means such as a cabinet maker, we're heavily involved in the tender process. Then we're heavily involved in the delivery process, because we also install and supply certain products such as automation. And at handover, we then have servicing. We actually service the Ropox product, the doors, etc. So we are there from the start of the project to handover, and even longer from the handover, because we actually then have annual servicing of a handful of these products as well. So we remain a partner, not just to the investor, but from the day they engage us all the way to the end and into the future. And that could be 5, 10, 15 or 20 years later. And I guess we touched on it before, we're turning 100 this year, so we're going to be here for another 100.
Fantastic. Right. Well, what I wanted to speak with these lovely gentlemen from Ropox more about was their understanding of trends. What's happening in Europe? What do you think is going to make its way over here? What are you seeing in the market?
What we see is actually also what's going on here. I think the whole world is suffering from this demographic change that we see at the moment. People are getting older, and that will be a challenge. So the whole housing system is changing. So you need to fulfill these needs that are there. And we see that also in Europe. We see a huge demand for nursing homes, a huge demand for all kinds of homes where you can actually stay home at home for a longer period of time if you get assisted living products. So that's a trend that we see. So I think what is going on here is that I'm quite amazed about the speed that you have here in Australia, but it's the same trend, but you have a speed. So that is that's the difference to Europe and Australia.
Okay, so we're just adopting it much quicker and
I think so.
learning faster.
And really taking these things up and really doing something about it. I think there's a lot in Europe about talking about it, but not so much action.
I think that's definitely the case in the visualization space. If you look at third-party controls, automation, software designs to monitor a participant or someone living in a home, e-trace falls. I think we're very, very much on the front foot when it comes to development in those spaces. I think the hardware side of things is quite resolved. Building design is adapting quickly and moving at a very quick pace, and SDA really has forged that for us or provided a platform for that. So house design, yes, and through the NCC changes that have been adopted around the country this year in terms of minimum standards for construction, which is very important, but a very small step in a very long road. But I think semi-automation and digitalisation is a big change moving forward.
Okay.
I think we often forget, though, from the Europeans looking at the way Australia does things, is that the NDIS, and this coming to the market in 2013, the world is watching how Australia is working with the NDIS. And in the National Disability Insurance Scheme is something that we rolled out, and the world is watching how we do it. And this is a really important, like Nils just mentioned about the speed of what we're doing. Yeah. And I think that we forget how powerful the NDIS and what a wonderful thing this is that we have got here in Australia, allowing us to bring independence to people, not just around disability, but for the aging population as well. And I think the NDIS is the powerful part here as well. Yeah.
Definitely. Very interesting to see where we'll be in 5 years' time. We've seen how far we've come already.
Further evolution, further development, definitely.
Yeah.
And hopefully more automation discussion.
Absolutely.
Not so much this discussion, but a general.
Definitely. Yeah. And as you said, Nils, it's not just for the disability industry. It's for the building industry entirely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Needs to really look at these. Yeah.
And adaptive housing around that is an important subject.
Huge, yeah. Okay, well, that sort of winds up my questions I had for you. I'm going to go around now and ask if you have any last thoughts that you'd like to leave us with.
So what are you thinking of? What kind of things?
Well, how are you seeing the Australian industry? Where do you think it will go? What do you think we could be doing better in terms of that? Like how
they're just around the started market of it in the head.
Well, could we be doing the weather better for you? Or it's a pretty nice day today.
Still after it spent the last semester. Like here in Australia, traveling around and seeing some of the beautiful huts and projects that we've
certainly we'll come back to you. Well, okay, Oliver and Clinton, any last thoughts from your heart? your perspective.
The account that I'd probably like to suggest is check out our assisted living website, assistedliving.com.au.
We'll have that link in the description of the episode.
Certainly a lot of resources there, really image and some technical data and just a bit some information on the kinds of products that really list us.
And I think it's important the participant knows that we're approachable. Often people, it's about the architect and the designer or the builder. And I think the participant is a really important factor in what we do. And we've got showrooms around the country that have all Ropox product and other assisted technologies that Hafele both manufacture and distribute. And having them come in and feel and touch and see the product, I think will enlighten them and encourage them to maybe move into better quality SDA as well. Mm-hmm. And all our showrooms are accessible. And I think that's an important part. I think with participants' families as well, to see what is out there and what we can actually create for their family member or themselves. I think that's an important part.
Yeah, I totally agree. Get in there and actually see it, touch and feel, see how it works and how it can make lives so much better.
I think also you can then see it's not a scary perspective.
Yeah.
I mean, it's achievable.
Yeah.
It's not pie in the sky. It's not wish. It is doable.
Mm-hmm.
By existing traits. So it's not a scary prospect, that's for sure. It just makes a lot of sense.
Yep.
So providing terrific outcomes or potential of or for terrific outcomes.
Yeah.
And I think that sometimes with this sector as well is the cost of product. And I think when you look at the way Hafele has approached it over the last few years, we have got some cost-effective products that can actually create a lot of independence. And I think that's the important part as well.
That's very important, especially from the investor's perspective. So, yeah, well, something for the investors listening in today to really think about is really going above and beyond what you're putting into your property. And this assisted living technology is a major part of how you can make your property better, future-proof it, and create an environment that is going to allow far more independence for your tenants. And at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. So I think we'll leave it there, gentlemen. Thank you so much for visiting us. I hope that you enjoy your rest of your stay in Australia, Nils and Janz. So, yeah, welcome. Pleasure to have you. And also to Oliver and Clinton, pleasure having you in the office today.
Thanks, Debbie. It was fantastic.
Great. Okay. See you next time then.
We hope you enjoyed this episode. Please make sure you are subscribed and following us so you can keep in the loop with all of our upcoming episodes. We would really appreciate it if you could leave us a 5-star rating, a written review, and to share this podcast with those that could benefit. Until next time, catch you on the next episode.